Islam.
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 I rise in thought, giving praises to the great God Allah and honors to his holy and divine prophet, Prophet Noble Drew Ali. I give honors to my guest speakers, viewers, listeners, and everyone tuning in to Universal Love for some uplifting information. Here on Universal Love tonight, our topic, we'll be having a discussion on the names that delude to slavery. And we felt like this topic would be key to speak about because we're in a month that is known as Black History Month. And we learned in the Moorish Science Temple of America in our questionnaire for Moorish Americans, question number 87, what is meant by the word Black. And Black, according to science, means death. And it's a science behind that. And so we want to bring some clarification to some things, just so the public and the general people could have a better understanding of why these things are not good for our people and what it could draw to our people. So with that being said, we'll have an introduction from each one of our guest speakers to share a little bit about themselves. We'll start with Brother M. Hayes Bey.
Islam.
Islam.
I am Brother M. Hayes Bey. I have 29 years affiliation with Moorish Science Temple of America. I am currently serving in the capacity of honorary governor of Temple number 4, Detroit, Michigan. I have held Grand Sheik, chairman, assistant chairman, excuse me, many positions throughout the Moorish Science Temple of America throughout my life. I've served under the Honorable Brother W. Parker Bey. Just a little bit about myself, but to get, excuse me, more into, I've been studying Noble Drew Ali, not only from a spiritual perspective, but one of the things that made me join the Moorish Science Temple of America is because Noble Drew Ali stated, we are not Negroes, Blacks, colors, or Ethiopians. That was something I discovered when I was 4 years old, that I was not a Black person. So I never respected any adult that called themselves Black. And I'll part at that. Peace.
Peace. Brother S.N.E.L. Bey.
Islam. My name is Brother S.N.E.L. Bey. I am the Grand Sheik of Branch Temple number 11, Moorish Science of America Incorporated, Syracuse, New York. I'm a father, grandfather, local business owner, community organizer, and I'm just your brother. Peace.
Peace. Brother R. Anthony L.
Islam.
Islam.
I am Brother R. Anthony L. Currently stationed at Temple number 71, Washington, D.C. There, I am the Assistant Financial Secretary for the Temple. I've been affiliated with the Prophet for quite a few number of years. I won't quote exact digits because we know that is the number, it's just a number, but I've been around the Prophet for a long time. I've been studying his teachings and they've worked well for me, and I'm happy to have. I'm always looking for that position called faithful. I'll be happy with that.
Islam.
Islam. Turn it back over to the host.
Praise Allah. Thank you, my brother. So with that being said, we're going to lead to the first question, and then you guys can share a little bit of your feedback on that question. Can you speak about the origin of the word Black? And I'm gonna open the floor, so any one of you. Well, first we'll start with brother S.N.E.L. Bey, and then from here on out we'll just open the floor. Questions.
Well, first I'd like to rise, give praise to Allah, honors to the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, honors to all the viewers, and honors to the host and the show, and my comrades and colleagues on the show. Well, there's a lot that could be said about the origin of the word black, but I think what's more important, what happens with a lot of our people and just people in general, is that context becomes a moving target.
Yeah.
So I think it's important to speak to the origin of the word as, in its proper context. And in this case, in the new era of time and how it is applied to our people, right? And so I'll just start with this. I'll start with this, and then we can go from there. The attribution of the label black to the descendants of the inhabitants of Africa, now in the diaspora, America, came as the result of wartime conceits between our forefathers and those that they fought on the side of the cross during the Crusades up until the end of the 15th century. Just like in Vietnam, when US vets called Viet Cong or Vietnamese or North Vietnam called them zipperheads and gooks and things like that. All right. The label black, Negro, etc., became socialized into the American social fabric, but began as derogatory conceits against our forefathers.
Peace. Brother Anthony Hill.
Islam. Black even.
Go ahead, my brother. I thought you needed the question again. Go ahead.
No, black even from my early exposure, growing up in Washington, D.C., has never been a proud label put upon our people, and it just never felt quite right to me because it had a particular vibration or tone when our people use it, and it had a completely different vibration and tone when somebody from a different nationality used. So I grew up with a uncertainty about exactly what it meant and where we was placed at in society. So I was very uncomfortable, and I knew that I needed to find something. But by definition, we see that black, according to science, as prophet lessons know, means deaf. And that science in itself, science means is a pursuit and the application of knowledge and understanding following a systematic methodology that's based on evidence. We find that in this day and time, the prophet has showed us and let us know that because of the negative connotation that goes along with that word black, that we had to go back and we had to do some study. We had to find out some empirical evidence. We had, in order to either own or disagree and disown that concept. And here in the Moore Science Temple of America, we find that it's no great badge of courage, and it always alludes to that dreadful time in our history where we was in bondage, in slavery. So we need, as Moorish Americans, we need to get away from that concept of black. And I'll leave it at that. Back to you, Ho.
Islam. Brother M. Hayes Bay.
Islam. I just like to butt in to the question, giving honors to those who have preceded me and to our great prophet, Noble Drew Ali, honors, praise to Allah and honors to Marcus Garvey, and honors to all of you who honors are due. I just want to quote my grand sheik brother, D. Barnes Bay, and how he taught me about the science of Marx. The science of Marx is identical to the same science that when there was cattle on a ranch, they would brand the cattle with a certain stamp on its hind in order to mark it so that individuals will know that that's their particular property from that ranch. And during the time of slavery, Senator Berry of 1832, if I'm correct, stated that we will reduce the Negro to that of a beast of the field. We will reduce him from all knowledge, intelligence that a human may possess in order for him to be just like a beast in the field. And I believe that the science of Marx was used by marking us Negro, Black, colored, Ethiopian, because there's no population of people on earth today outside of the United States that is solely known or identified by such marks. May Allah be pleased. Islam?
Islam. And one thing I would like to mention, like when you look up the word black at times, it says destitute of light, and it's lacking light. But we know that Allah and man is one. So therefore, you're not lacking light. The light is always there. So when you cling to that word black, you're saying that you're pretty much lacking, you know. And I just, once again, you know, I like to give praises to Allah, honest the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, because of these teachings. They could save you, they can get you right, they could fix just about any and everything. Well, they can fix. Let me correct myself. They could fix any and everything in your life. Islam, Brother S.N.E. Obey.
Yes, so I'd like to add to that, but that's a powerful thought. I give honors to Brother R. Anthony Ill and Brother M. Hayes Bay's thought as well. You know, but to add to what you just said, you know, there's, you know, I want to just say that, put this out there right now for the audience and for ourselves as well. This is 2021, and these teachings, I don't think, in my opinion, have never been as relevant as they are today.
Islam.
That being said, what we're talking about still is a steep climb for many of our people.
Islam.
It's still a steep climb, right? And you know, and what tends to happen, you know, a lot of times, is the association with the label. It's Stockholm syndrome for real. The association of our people with the label, right, brings about loathing when they hear question 87. Black according to science means death. They take it as we are insulting them, and we are separating ourselves from our own people, right? And all we're saying, or all what I believe the prophet is saying, what I get out of that, first of all, we don't have a phobia with black. The prophet is teaching us, and we are learning to put it in the proper context. Because yes, he said black according to science means death, but he also taught us that death is not an enemy, but a friend.
Of course.
He also taught us that there's a holy ministry in death, right? And then black according to science means death. He didn't say black according to science is death. So green means go, red means stop, right? When we talk about color association with behavior, that science is called sociology. You know what I mean? So it's just putting things in the proper context. The prophet isn't saying we are separate from our own people. The prophet is saying that those labels are not appropriate for human beings.
Islam.
Islam. Did you want to say something, Brother M. Hayes Bay?
No, I yield to Brother Anthony Hill.
Go ahead, Brother Anthony Hill.
No,
Brother R. Anthony Hill.
I was thinking back as we're sitting here and we're talking about the subject matter. Also, when I was young, I remember that whenever someone transformed or transformed from this life to the next or died, what would go on the standard dress at that time was black. It's just begun to change recently. For the last few years, it's begun to change. That I couldn't understand why is that we was, when they say black, I think about death. And this is what the prophet did when he came along and let us know that we had to, before we take on these attributes and these titles, that there was a hidden meaning and there was an obvious meaning. Obviously, that at some point, if we are saying that we are black in the old sense, we are saying that we are dead. We're in a dead state of mind. And this is what the prophet, one of the greatest myths that the prophet came to help us dispel, because that word black is colloquially, came back from old English times, some times ago, historically, that always related to mourning and death. And in this day and time, we have to distinguish what we're saying if we identify with that concept. And we certainly should not identify it from a finite point of view.
Islam.
It's a slave concept.
Islam.
Can I add something up to that? Brother got me open.
All right, go ahead, my brother.
See, another thing to that, the label black, Negro, even although African American is not necessarily a derogatory, just like we would call, European, it's similar. But what it is it is culturally ambiguous. It tells you nothing about who you are or where you came from or who your forefathers were. Essentially, it is birthright stealing. It robs you of your past and your connection to the past, which we know is part of the everlasting gospel.
It's fine.
M. Hayes Bay.
May I please?
Yeah, my brother.
Well, the first thing I like to do is the definition of Black according to Merriam-Webster, 1828. Banco, pale, ashin, which means it's not based on what we look at today as far as our visual perception to mean Black. Second point is the science of marks was used to mark us out of history according to our ancestral lineage, which our ancestral lineage links us as heirs to the present Moroccan Empire, quoting chapter 47 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, instruction 6, 7, and 8. In those instructions, we are without a doubt a contradiction who our forefathers were. Today, we still are. And within that, we must understand that Antonio Bustamante in the Pan American Conference of 1928 introduced to the Sixth International Conference of American States the concept of private law. Every nationality has a law that's indicative of that nationality. So in the melting pot of America, this is when I believe that Noble Drew Ali says, all men now must proclaim their nationality to be recognized by the government in which they live in the nations of the earth. And now that we have proclaimed ours, historically, people will like to still refer to us as Black, African American. And Noble Drew Ali is also quoted to have said, I brought you everything it takes to save a nation. We're not talking about saving a nation from some spooky devil that dwells in the midst of the earth. We're talking about saving a nation from a devil that dwells on earth on 2 feet, because he liked to write us out of history. He's trying to save us from being marked out of history and us becoming extinct as Moorish people. We don't refer to being Moorish people based on the transatlantic slave trade. If you read chapter 47 of the Holy Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America, 6, 7, and 8, we crossed the Atlantis, not the Atlantic. Peace.
Peace. And with that being said, we're gonna go to the a question from our viewers. The question was, what does Black mean in law? And we're gonna go on with this with one person. We'll let Brother S.N.E.L. Bay speak on that. Then we're gonna move on to the next question. Praise Allah.
I'll be brief. As man unfolds, as God unfolds, right? Man's God today, tomorrow is not God. That doesn't mean God changes, right? That doesn't mean Allah changes because truth changes not. What it really speaks to is our unfolding in approaching truth, in approaching, the totality that is Allah. I say that to say this. There was a time when I would say, yes, Black has a standing in law, and that standing is at your property, and this, that I would have said that. Right?
Praise Allah.
I would have said that. Now I think about it a different way. I'm not going to say that that's necessarily wrong, but now I think about it a different way. If the definition in Black's Law Dictionary, 3rd edition, 4th edition, 5th edition says that nationality determines one's political status, specifically with reference to allegiance, while domicile determines one's civil status. Well, very simply, that says to me that politics trumps the law, right? I'd rather be at the table deciding how laws are formed, like a good citizen does, through his elected representatives, which is a Republican form of government, as opposed to arguing with a low-level judge or magistrate after the fact. I'd rather be on the political side, right? But now watch this. If politics trumps the law, sociology trumps politics. Why? Because when the people come together, when the citizens of the government come together to shape society to their liking through their elected representatives in forming laws, they're already socialized that the Negro is inherently criminal. That Black people are inherently criminal. So they're already socialized in that way. You see what I'm saying? So I would say, I would kind of, in my mind, I would reframe the question and respond to it that way, in that Black has a status, but the status is social.
Islam.
Peace.
Peace. When you cling to the names that delude to slavery, what is the vibration that comes along with that, Brother R. Anthony L?
Well, again, when we speak about vibration and ethers and that kind of demonstration, when you associate with anything that's in violation of the law, you go around what your actual social duties are. You act what is colloquially known as antisocial. And when you act antisocial, that simply means you have no respect for law. If you have no respect for law, its principles, its regulations, and those type of legal situations, especially in society, you have rules and regulations. If you act contrary, then that simply means that you act in violation or contrary to the law. And that's not a good position to be in. That's really an illegal position to be in. And when you do illegal things, society has a way that they deal with you. And I'll leave it at that.
Praise Allah. Brother M. Hayes Bay.
Islam. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali informs us that through certain behavior, we will be classed as undesirables. In all lands, if you fail to proclaim your national identity by origin or by political status, you're subject to whatever abuses or mistreatment the people of that society cares to bestow upon you. And we've seen throughout history where have people who have failed to answer up by their national constitution and were beat down, stabbed, killed, beat in the streets. And we see that's what's going on amongst our people right now here in North America. We have to understand, when it comes to human rights, there are no Blacks associated with human rights. There is no Negroes, colors, etc., to the lesser of identifying by a nationality. In the form of nations, only a nationality is welcome in the form of nations, not a race, not a color. So you can't take a charge to the United Nations for violations of your human rights if you only solely identify yourself as a Black person, Negro, colored, or Ethiopian. That doesn't exist in the United Nations. You must have a nationality so that your private law code can become an issue. Simple example, if an Irishman dies intestate without a will and his nationality is invoked in the court, probate court must adjudicate the case according to his nationality. In the absence of a nationality, probate court has the right to adjudicate the case, which is a private matter, according to a public issue. In Irish law, hypothetically, the eldest daughter may be the heir to the estate in the absence of a will. English law, the eldest male, and I'm saying hypothetically, the English male, the oldest male of the child of the deceased may be the heir to the estate. In the absence of a nationality, the probate judge has every logical wherewithal to decide the case as he chooses based on public law. So without a nationality, you can defeat yourself even in your death. Peace.
Peace. Brother SNEL Bay, would you like to respond to that question?
Yes, sir. Could you repeat the question again? I was into my brother Hayes Bay's demonstration.
Praise the Lord.
Yes, sir.
When you cling to the names that delude to slavery, what is the vibration that comes along with that?
That's huge. See, and the way I want to address it and answer it, I won't be long at all. But you know, we're all family. So, all right, this is going to touch many of us inside of our organization, inside our movement, right? The prophet talked about the names and the principles that delude to slavery, right? So look at it this way. I was speaking about this to a group of youth recently here in Syracuse. You got a box of cookies. The cookies have a particular label on them, right? What's more important than the label is what's in the box. So if I snatch the label off the box of cookies, but I'm still eating the cookies, what does that say about? One of the things, and this is a critique with us as well, right? With all of us, because remember, the organization is a spiritual organization. More Science Temple America is a thought organization teaching us how to do what? Think. Right? So that being said, we're still learning. I'm still learning how to think. We're learning. You know, you're talking 500 years after our fall in Granada. You know what I'm saying? We're learning how to think. We're crawling, you know, we're learning. That being said, right? Many of us have given up the name and not the principles. That delude the slave.
Yeah, a lot of people.
You know what I'm saying? And so we have to be concerned, and to that I say this is what I used with the youth as an example. I said, how many of you all have nicknames given to you by family members or friends, people in your hood, right? And I said, how many of you were present when somebody received a nickname? I said, when you saw your friend or your associate get the nickname Pookie, how long was the time lapse in between them receiving the nickname and they started acting like a Pookie? Spirit and an energy and a vibration that comes with a name. You see what I'm saying? This is a spiritual organization teaching us how to think, but not just think. Our religion is Islamism. But the name of the organization is the More Science Temple of America. So it's the aim of religion, the method of science. What does that imply? It implies that we can research and analyze spiritual things in a scientific way. So when you look at a name, it carries a spirit and a vibration that in your flesh and in your thinking and in your activity now creates a pattern of behavior. You see? So it's not even just society saying, oh, you all are this, that, and the third. It comes out of our pores. You see what I'm saying? So, you know, it's like when the prophet, and I'm paraphrasing, when the prophet spoke to, you know, our people, specifically in the South, living a particular way, but yet still trying to force American society to treat us in a civilized fashion. You see what I'm saying? It's like the artificial plant saying, water me.
Praise God.
Islam. Well, someone in the chat wanted Brother M. Hayes Bay to break down what he was explaining, but I don't know if we got time for that. You know, so we go, and we just want, I want to put the question was seen, but I just don't think we have time to like go that in depth on the show with that response. But it was the statement you made previous to Brother SNEL Bay's speaking. Why do you think our people cling to the name and principles that delude to slavery? Brother R. Anthony Hill.
Well, in this day and time, it may not seem like it, but it's very easy to be the product. Going back to black right quick, it's very easy to associate and accept the black concept because everybody around you is doing it. But that does not necessarily mean that it's right because everybody around you is doing it. So the most important thing that we have to keep in mind here is that we have to be, the prophet has taught us that we have to be, number one, we have to think. And as a result of learning how to think, we have to be responsible for our thoughts. And thought is the cause of it all. So what we're thinking in our mind comes out in our actions and deeds. So we have to investigate these concepts of black that we said earlier in the show, that it relates to the issue of slavery. And we have to put ourselves in a society of people where they have rules, again, rules, regulations, and ways of conduct. We should conduct ourselves in a civilized society. And the prophet only says, our history is very long and it's very illustrious, and we have a grand history. That's why we're giving back certain things back to everybody. It's like we have a trick-or-treat basket of actions and deeds. We're giving the Reese cups back to this person, and we're giving the chocolate candy back to that person because we see they don't belong to us, they belong to somebody else. So everything that we got that's bad, that's not in accord with society law, that's not in accord with divine law, that's not in accord with any law. We find out that it's not doing us any good, it's only hurting us. We have to be conscious enough to give it back. And that's the vibration that we need to be on. We have to realize that everything that we say out our mouth, that we talk about to our families, that we represent in our communities, that we say that we are about, if we say that we are about love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice, this is what the people around you, on your job, in your neighborhood, at your temple, this is what they got to see out your actions and deeds. Because the very moment that they see something contrary, they're going to call you on it. We have to learn and be responsible for when we say that we are Moorish hyphenated Americans and we have principles that we live according to, which is the principles of love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. This is what we have to do all across the board. And quiet as a kept, it's not that hard to live the life as a Moorish American. We have to understand that what we profess, we have to be responsible for. And I'll digress because I know we're on the time.
Brother M. Hayes Bay.
It's fine.
Fine.
May I get you to repeat the question, please?
Sure, my brother. Why do you think that our people cling to names and principles that delude to slavery?
I'll reiterate, Senator Berry of the 1830s stated that we will reduce the slave to that of the beast of the field. And in the reduction of a human to the beast of a field, one thing must be separated is his intellectual consciousness, his awareness of his God, his awareness of his origin, his awareness of anything that will make him prideful was intentionally stripped from him in order to get him to serve the field. So it's basically a lack of knowledge, but that is no longer an excuse. 1913 AD, the holy and divine prophet Noble Drew Ali established the Moorish Science Temple of America and the Moorish National and Divine Movement, which could never be left out. This is not just a religious issue in the sense of American terms of religion. Islamism spreading across the Mediterranean not only dealt with our private prayer and worship, but it also dealt with our public sociology, economics, political views, etc. Just like we know, zakat, you must give your percentage to the public to assist. Interest period is usury. In America, 24.9% interest is legal. As I just recently graduated from an international course of Islamic banking and global finance, it showed me how the Quran of the Moorish Science Temple of America and the great Quran of Muhammad, in which we derive our power and authority, how it exists in our society. As Americans of Moorish descent, we have the right under our private law code to be Americans of Moorish descent. If we think that we're Black, if others think that we're Black and only want to attribute Black history, African history to us, which only goes back to the transatlantic slave trade. No, the Holy and Divine Prophet Noble Drew Ali is one of the first scholars in America of our origin to reveal our pre-Columbian heritage before the great earthquake that caused the Atlantic Ocean. We were standing right here in this land before the great earthquake that caused the Atlantic Ocean. So there was no Atlantic Ocean while we stood in these same areas. So we don't claim descendanship from some present people in North Africa, because we know some present people in North Africa only probably been dominating for the last 1,400 years. But we descend from the inhabitants of the Canaanite, Moabite, Hittite, and Amorite nations who were here and established kingdoms before the great earthquake that caused the Atlantic Ocean. And that's a must to understand, because that gets into our next line of questions. Peace.
Peace. Go ahead, my brother Esani Obey. You ready for this one? Go ahead, my brother. Praise Allah. Praise Allah.
I'm trying to keep it simple. You're on the rocket ship. So, but anyway, why our people cling to these things? It's again, in a very simple sense, for lack of anything else. If you're thirsty and all you got is a dirty glass of water, you're gonna drink out that glass of water, and over time, you're gonna learn to like it. You see what I'm saying? You're gonna learn to like it. Now, think about let's extend that analogy to actual fact social issues that our people deal with in America today. You go upstate and you do a bid. You go up in the mountains and you do a bid in the prison system. You come back and they throw a homecoming party and put a chunk of money in your hand. We consider it a rite of passage. That's insane, people. You see what I'm saying? The glory and the shame is misplaced. So we, in the absence of real rites of passage, we created one out of a negative condition. You see what I'm saying? In terms of survival instinct, there's an honor to that. But the prophet came and took away all the excuses. They didn't have anymore. You see what I'm saying? No need for that. We have rites of passage. See? The prophet included all of that. We got holy days, we got Sunday school, we all know the rest. You got third heaven. You have rites of passage. You see? So, that's just one example. But we honor, come on, we turn waste material into delicacies and call it soul food. You see what I'm saying? So again, there's honor in making in finding the means to good out of the worst. There's an honor to that when you have nothing else. But when you're brought the clean glass of water, and then you choose a dirty glass, you're only doing so because that's all you know and that's all you're familiar with. You see? Peace.
Peace. But and I also wanted to state that I'm gonna go to chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire and dominion of Africa, and instruction, divine instruction 16, where it says, through sin and disobedience, every nation has suffered slavery due to the fact that they honor not the creed and principles of their forefathers. That is why the nationality of the Moors was taken away from them in 1774, and the word Negro, black, colored, was given to the Asiatics of America who were of Moorish descent because they honored not the principles of their mothers and fathers and strayed after the gods of Europe of whom they knew nothing. That was like, to me, like the prophet stating, that was the starting factor of everything that was being said coming into play, you know, and that's Islam. Go ahead, brother.
Wow, that again, the prophecy, there's such a profoundness or profundity in simplicity, right? One of the things that spoke to me in that when you read that from the prophet's words was this: our forefathers didn't fall because we didn't know who we were. We fell in full knowledge of who we were. You know what I'm saying? We knew exactly who we were. As a matter of fact, we were pretty much at the top of the food chain, so to speak, right? We fell because we lost the relation that binds us to love and unity. And then losing our identity and then the ability to organize based on national origin was the punishment. That was the result.
Brother Anthony Ill, and then we want to try to move on to the next question.
Praise God.
In short, as we grew up in America and had been moved away from our proud tradition and history, we didn't know nobody. We didn't know no better. Didn't nobody come along and teach us what it was to have a relationship with the God that we serve now. Did nobody come along and let us know that we had an illustrious history and we was kings and queens at one time? Wow. Did nobody come along and say, you have divine principles? We didn't have no history. We didn't have nothing to hold on to cling to. Now, after the advent of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we got some things that we could work with. All we have to do is take the tools that he gave us and put them to work.
Praise Allah.
That's all we got to do.
Praise Allah. Well, I'm going to take a reading from the Great Meeting His Own Quran Questions for Moorish Americans, and I'm going to go to question 90. And can a man be a Negro, black, colored, or Ethiopian? Of course, we know the answer is no. And can you elaborate on this for the general public? Brother S.N.E.O. Bay. And then Brother M. Hayes Bay.
In the, again, sociology, right? Basic sociology, and this is a basic principle of sociology worldwide, right? Worldwide, because sociology, again, is the science of society, how individuals come together and become one social unit, right? And so that being said, you know, there's a major aspect of society of being able to trace yourself. Being able to trace yourself. Can a man be Negro, black, colored, Ethiopian? I want to touch on the Ethiopian thing too.
Oh, please.
But can a man be these things? A man? No. Why? Because those things are names or labels given to objects of possession. You know, yes. They're given to objects, not to things that have what we call the Latin term filius, right? Which means ancestry, right? Not the things that have a line, not the things that are connected to the saving power. You see? So a man can't be these things because those things cut that off. They cut the line off. They cut you off from the past. They cut you off from the spiritual current and transmission that comes through your ancient fathers, which is a very real thing, And so I wanted to just give a historical context. Can a man be Negro, Black, colored, Ethiopian? These questions were given to us circa 1927, 1928. There was no nation called Ethiopia at the time. That name was given to Abyssinia in the 60s with the hopes of the person who gave it, with the hopes that his country would be the hub of bringing together the African diaspora. Problem is, the prophet was already here. He did it already.
Islam, peace. Brother M. Hayes Bay.
Islam. This reminds me of an ancient axiom that has been inscribed over the pyramid door, which states, Satan Ganatai, which means man, know thyself. And knowing thyself, you must know your origins in the world. There has been no historical origins of a Black nation, a Black race, a colored or Ethiopian, other than in European penmanship. So Noble Drew Ali is saving us not from, once again, a spooky God that lives in the midst of the earth, but walks on earth on 2 feet, saving us from becoming an extinct bloodline of people who has an illustrious history that comes with a great amount of law and artifacts, history, etc., to back this up, but it's not associated with us because we cling to these marks, once again, to the science of marks. Negro, Black, and colored are only marks. It takes you out of the constitutional fold because it puts you in a position of property. No natural born person is identified by Negro, Black, or colored. Natural born persons are identified by their blood descent. This is why we have the 2 flags. Moorish, because I am an American of Moorish descent, etc., 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 across the board, and what we call the great melting pot. You're not an American citizen just because you're born on the land, according to Noble Drew Ali. So you could be born on the land, but not declare your allegiance, not declare your ancestral lineage, and we don't know who you are, which is contrary to Satan Ganatai. Peace.
Peace. And I also want to state, because with that question, our answer is no. But right after that, with question number 91, this asks us why. And it says, because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God, Allah. And just like the brother S.N.E.L. Bay was speaking about, the Ethiopians are Abyssinians. And what I found so beautiful, anyone who served in the military and been around the world and been to like North and South Korea, the prophet in chapter 47, Egypt, the capital empire of the Dominion of Africa, divine instruction 3, it says, well, I'll go with divine instruction 2. Old man Cush and his family are the first inhabitants of Africa who came from the land of Canaan. His father Ham and his family were second. Then came the word Ethiopia, which means the demarcation line of the dominion of Amexem, the first true and divine name of Africa, the dividing of the land between the father and the son. It's a good documentary on Netflix that you can pull up, and it shows North Korea and South Korea and how it's beautiful to see. And when I saw that, I was just, all I could think about was the prophet. But if you've been there, it has what is called the demarcation line, which divides North Korea from South Korea, and they stand in the same building on opposite sides, staring at one another, but it divides the land. It shows the prophet is truly a prophet. Praise Allah. Praise Allah. I want to go to this next question is Islam.
I just wanted to paraphrase what Brother Haynes Bay was saying. In America, we are citizens, and those two flags that's hanging behind you and Brother Now Bay, we are by nationality, by law, Moorish hyphenated Americans. And there's a reason why that is. But going specifically back to the question that you asked, in any of the literature that the prophet left for us on the scene that we could go back and study when we was a little doubtful about what was going on in life, he always asked a question, but he gives you an answer.
Wow.
And the question that you asked before is, can a man be Negro, Black, colored, or Ethiopian? And the answer is simple, without explanation. It says, no. No ifs, ands, buts, maybe so's about it. No. But in the very next question, he says, why? Because man is made in the image and after the likeness of God alive, which negates all the other stuff. Cuts it right out. In America, according to constitutional law, Brother Haynes Bay, as he just saying, and I'm paraphrasing, we have dual nationality. We are Moorish hyphenated Americans of Moorish descent, but citizens of America, or what is known as the United States of America.
Islam. Well, we kind of getting short on time, so I'm gonna ask one more question, then we're gonna go into closing remarks. In our country, why is it that only our people and Europeans are classified as, I don't really like saying the word too much, white and black? Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Brother M. Hayes Bay, then Brother S.N.L. Bay, then Brother R. Anthony Hill. And we kind of want to limit our response, but still get your point across. Praise Allah.
1790 census form, Moors and Turks were identified as whites. In today's current U.S. naturalization and immigration laws, Form SF-181 currently identifies Moors as white people. Racial and ethnicity codes identify Moors as white people. We're not here to be identified by racial and ethnicity codes.
No.
But according to 91, when you define the word white, white means purity. Purity means God, and God means the ruler of the land.
Wow.
So the Moors are the true white people of North America, although we self-proclaim to be black people, which is the opposite. So next time you walk upon a pale skin, identify him as being black. If we go back to 1495 Papal Bull under the Pope of Rome, in there, he declared the indigenous people, when there's a white man comes upon them, they lose the right of ultimate dominion. And then the white man declares or accepts or rules under ultimate dominion and transfers the right of occupancy to the indigenous people. That is reversed by Prophet Noble Drew Ali in chapter 47. We are the gods of the land. Let no one tell you no different. So it appears that we're called black. That's only through ignorant people. And one of the main reasons is because it united nations of Europe because they had beef amongst themselves. The English had beef with the Irish had beef with the French, not literally, but just in expression wise, I say these nations had troubles amongst themselves. But when they found themselves in America and the newly freed slave had his liberation, they had to garner their forces. So they garnered their forces under a declaration of being white and subdued us under the ideal of being black. We must abandon the ideal of being black and readopt our issue from 1790 census form. We are the true white people of North America. Peace.
Peace. Brother SNEO Bay.
Unmute myself. Islam.
Islam.
Praise Allah. I want to offer, you know, another way to look at that. Another way to look at that whole thing, right?
Praise Allah.
First and foremost, right? It's a known fact. 1995, the American Anthropological Association, speaking of the federal government's Office of Management and Budget, Federal Directive 15, which provides the standards for color code race classification in America for the gathering of statistics and et cetera, right? The American Anthropological Association flatly stated that the color code system of race is devoid of science. 2, it has nothing to do with genetics. 3, it is an artificial social construct created by the European elite as a caste system operating in the open. In any structure, you have the limits or the extremes of the structure, which provide the framework. The framework for the color code system of race classification, which is racism, it is white supremacy, is black and white. See, the fact of the matter is this: Europeans uniting under the social term white gave up their nationality voluntarily. That is the power behind the prophet's statement in chapter 47 when he said, the time has come when every nation must worship under its own vine and fig tree, and every tongue must confess its own. We are seeing today in 2021 a growing number of Europeans that are abandoning the social code white.
Islam.
They are like the robber on the right of Jesus in the Bible that said, listen, to the robber on the left, we deserve to be here, and told Jesus, when you enter into your kingdom, remember me.
Islam.
This is where we are right now. So they're smart enough to see the changing of the guard,
Islam.
and that the prophet was 100% correct. Black and white set the social structure. Remember, people, in the 1830s, Germans, Italians, and Irish were not considered white. They became white.
Islam.
That's nothing to do with genetics.
Islam.
You see what I'm saying? To this day, ask any immigrant from East Africa or North Africa, any Sudanese immigrant, any immigrant from Tripoli or Libya, ask them when they came through immigration and naturalization, what were they classified? They'll tell you white. It's a game. The prophet said, listen, the prophet said, what is your nationality?
Islam.
So wisdom is in the question. He didn't say, what is your color? What is your hue? We don't identify that way.
Don't identify that.
And we're in an era of time now where the identifying this way is core American values.
Islam.
White supremacy usurped the American dream. It's not a part of it originally. Peace.
Praise Allah. And I thank you. And I thank you for cleaning that up a little bit, Brother SNEO Bay. Brother R. Anthony Hill.
I just wanted to tag on to Brother S and talk about this. The color scheme in America is a concept brought about by the people that was in power in America. They came up with calling themselves white in order to stay in power, and us because of the slave concept. So that's the reason why it seems as though in America, it only boils down to the Europeans and the Asiatics. But as we understand, when you move away from that concept of the color code, you start getting down to the reality of international law, and all those flags that we see up on Massachusetts Avenue, there's no mention about individual nations. Everybody has a nationality. Everybody is a dual nationality, and that's according to international law. So the prophet brought us that. That's the reason why in America. So, and by the way, too, Brother Adams Bay, one of the things that that's when you see a European, as long as you go according to that color scheme and call them white, they're okay. But as soon as you say, well, your ancestors was Caucasians, then that okay face turns around and they go a different direction. And I'm not speaking radical. I'm talking about the way that it is. And prophet lets us know in America, in the world today, there's only two things in all the world. It's either true or it's falsehood. So we got to make sure that we always line ourselves up with the truth piece and be able to support it. And we ain't gonna never be wrong. Peace.
And I want to state that the prophet brought nationality, and we want to be specify that that's what the prophet brought. He didn't say we were white. He didn't say we were black. He said we
no color scheme.
Americans, and we want to put that out there to the general public just so it can be duly noted. And also, in speaking with Europeans, I know Europeans that they do not like to be called the W word. I say the W word because I don't even like to say it really. They do not like to be called that word. They'll tell you they're German, they're Polish, they're whatever they are. They'll let it be known. And a lot of them can't stand it because they understand, like Brother Esseniel Bay was breaking down earlier, they understand that they were, I call them casualties of war as well, to enslave the masses. So yeah, but praise Allah. So we're gonna go into closing remarks because we're nearing the end of the show, and we're gonna end with Brother Esseniel Bay because he has to put a message out that need to go out at the end of the show. So Brother M. Hayes Bay, then Brother R. Anthony Hill, then Brother Esseniel Bay. So Brother M. Hayes Bay, closing remark.
Islam Morris, I just want to let the world at large understand that no, Prophet Noble Drew Ali never did call us white or black. He denounced the color system created by Johann Friedrich Blumenbach as a whole, which was a zoological principle applied to anthropology. But we do have to understand in discussing the topic, we have to go through the phases of the topic, not saying that this is what we end up with in our conclusion, but I did want to address the phases of the topic. That's why I quoted 1790 census form, just to let it be known that even in the pharaonic dynasty, the pharaohs was identified as white people in the pharaonic dynasties at a particular period of time. Prophet Noble Drew Ali dug out in the ground according to the oral statements and pulled up a metal bar with foreign writing on it and said, this is where Queen Nita ruled and waged war against 5 pharaohs, giving that to the likeness of our divine origin in North America prior to the Atlantic Ocean existing. We're not African Americans as modernly used, just to give our ancient heritage. And I give Islam to all the Moors, Islam, everyone who may be in reception of tonight's discussion and video. And everything I've said here is only for peace and instruction and enlightenment in the Moorish views on my ideals of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Peace and love to all.
Peace, my brother. Brother R. Anthony Hill.
Islam, in keeping in accord with the program, going out the door, I'd like to leave the Moors with this concept. The Prophet Noble Drew Ali, when he came on the scene, he brought us a level of consciousness that is, without a doubt, I like to call it unbelievable. It is exactly the difference between going in a suit shop and taking a suit off the rack versus getting that tailor-made suit. The Moorish Science Temple of America for our people is not the suit off the rack, it's the tailor-made suit, because this is the one that fits us, our history, who we are. This is who Allah sent us for our people. But I want to close with this, and I want to look around you today in your level of consciousness in your daily lives. Rome is helping the prophet and us out. He's bringing out and talking about issues in day. He's talking about the U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment and the provisions of it, the 13th Amendment. Let's go on. He's also talking about science and the uses of science. He's talking about Black Lives Mattering in America. And finally, he's also the Rome I'm talking about. It's also talking about voting and citizens' rights. This only verifies what we as Moorish Americans that's been in this movement for more than a minute or two have been knowing. The prophet has been on time. His precepts and his concepts will continue to be on time. And all we got to do is look around and see what's going on, and we'll see it's the fulfilling of the prophecies. That chapter in the Holy Quran, last days, the end of time, and the fulfilling of the prophecy. We are living right here now in it.
Praise Allah. Praise Allah. Brother SNEL Bay.
Islam, brother. That's a fact. You know, there was a time when we relied on our faith, our belief in our faith, and then our literature. Now you could turn on the television and see the prophecies unfold. There's no question about it now. You know, our Quran, our prophet through the Holy Quran, the Moorish Science of America teaches us that good is thy power and the want of good is evil, right? One of the things that stands out to me in relation to this issue is, if I gotta tell you I'm good, there's a want of good. Why don't I just be good? That being said, right, and you know, we know that there is a people. We say, you know, what is meant by the word white? White means purity. Purity means God. God means ruler of the land, right? If somebody's got to tell you that, what does it tell you? It tells you that there's an absence of the presence. How about that? There's an understandable tendency by our people outside the movement to ostracize us in the movement with statements like, well, the Moors contributed to our enslavement. You know, the fact is that they're right. What they don't realize or they don't want to accept is that they are the same people too. They are us. And that we heavily contributed to our own condition. Actually, that's a testament to our greatness. From the earthly perspective, no one could do it to us but us. We got so mighty as a people that we had the who's gonna check me mindset. And spiritually speaking, Allah heard that and said, let me show you. What is the duty of a prophet? Save nations from the wrath of Allah. The prophet came 500 some odd years after our whooping from Allah started to let us know that, okay, whooping time is over, but we become so accustomed to the whipping, we asking for more lashes. You know what I'm saying? What did we do in our greatness? We adopted, without the proper or requisite dignity and humility, we adopted whiteness. And we became, like it says in the Bible, 2 Thessalonians 2nd chapter 3rd verse. The end doesn't come until right, a particular type of person is found in the holy place claiming to be God and at the same time defiling everything that is of God. That's what we're looking at right now. But guess what? We were there 500 years ago. We have to remember our own dignity. The prophet said to the Moors reportedly, when you get back on top, treat the European nice. Don't do what you did 500 years ago. Peace.
Islam. And I wanted to make mention, didn't you have something you had to read tonight, my brother, SNEL Bay? Didn't the sister send you something to read for the end of the show?
Oh, did she? Let me check, brother, man. Let me check. Hold on, dear brother. You mean the upcoming workshop?
Islam.
Praise Allah, praise Allah, praise Allah. First, I just want to say, it's an honor to be useful.
Praise Allah.
It's an honor to be useful. It's an honor to be useful. The Moorish Science of America presents The Saving Power, unveiling the missing link in our history. I've been asked and I'm honored to do a workshop, an actual informational and educational workshop, February 16th and 23rd at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Two-part workshop, that will be streamed live on Facebook. Each workshop, right? This is not a free event. Each workshop, there will be a donation of $4.99 to attend. But we have some of you know that I'm a part of a research team, a Moorish American research team called Ali's Men. And so that scholarly information, a ton of it is going to go into the presentation. For those of you that want an actual copy of the PowerPoint presentation with all the scholarly references, that is $19.98. What is it? $20 to attend and receive the copy. Without receiving the copy, it's $4.99 to attend. I hope all of you show up. I hope all of you are part of it. Our intent is to arm our members with solid information that allows us to proudly take the prophet's message outside the temple walls and stand with our heads high to the public. If it's true in the temple, it's true everywhere. Truth is but one. Peace.
Peace. And once again, I would like to rise in thought and give praise to Allah and honors to Prophet Noble Drew Ali, and honors to all these beautiful brothers, Brother R. Anthony Ill, Brother M. Hayes Bay, Brother S. N. E. L. Bay, and to our guest speakers, viewers, listeners, and everyone tuning in for some uplifting information. And I also want to share with the viewers, please tune in tomorrow for Girl Talk, Real Talk, Moorish Talk at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. That's Thursday, tomorrow. And also our Friday Holy Day meetings on Facebook at 7:30, hosted by our Grand Sheikh and moderator, Brother R. Jones Bay. But I believe it's a new format that's being implemented, possibly. And also to our Sunday school, hosted by our moderator, Brother R. Jones Bay. And what I would like to leave the viewers and listeners with, I'm gonna take a reading from chapter 48, the end of time and fulfilling of the prophecies. And I'm gonna go to divine instruction 10 and 11. And when the prophet say he spoke spirit. And if you sincerely open up the windows of your heart and receive this message, you will feel the spirit that's in the words. It says, "Come all ye Asiatics of America and hear the truth about your nationality and birthrights, because you are not Negroes. Learn of your forefathers' ancient and divine creed, that you will learn to love instead of hate. We are trying to uplift fallen humanity. Come and link yourselves with the family of nations. We honor all true and divine prophets." With that being said, I thank you once again for coming on Universal Love and tuning in to Universal Love. We come to you in love and we leave you with peace.
Peace.
Praise Allah. Thank you, my brothers.
Praise Allah.
Praise Allah.
Love you, brothers, man. This is powerful.
Yeah, love you.
all.